Hey, Kyle, you want to do a mock draft?
Eh, why not? Let's do it.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day. And, of course, a big welcome to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single show, we appreciate you being here.
The everydayers or the once-in-a-whilers, we have some new content coming up your way that we want you guys to be aware of right off the top here. We are doing a mock draft today. That's new content. But tomorrow on the show, we're doing a live stream on the YouTube channel. So Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube. Joe, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is that correct?
That's what I have down. So that's why I plan on being there.
It's going to be all the things that you want to talk about. So you have takes, you have opinions, you have questions. Bring them. And then next week is, of course, the 2020 through NFL Draft. And Joe and I will be live on the YouTube channel both Thursday and Friday for days 1 and day 2 in its entirety. And then on day 3, we will be popping in and out throughout the course of the day on Saturday. So we have a lot of NFL Draft coverage coming up. For those of you who have asked and pleaded and cried, we have heard your cries. We will bring you ample NFL Draft coverage over the course of the next week and a half. And then, of course, the aftermath, which is really going to be in our wheelhouse in general.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, you get a mock draft today, too. So
hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Turn on the bell. We're going to be live often here over the next week. Don't miss anything. It's going to be fun. We want to interact and engage. So come ready with your questions, comments, whatever you have. It's going to be really fun. Looking forward to it.
So the structure of the mock draft today is predictive, but we have to come to an agreement on who the pick is going to be. Correct?
That's right.
So this is kind of pulling your sources with my sources, with the sources that have put stuff out on social. We're going to give it the best go around that we have, right? And I'm pretty excited to see how that turns out. So you want to start this thing off with the Carolina Panthers at number 1? Do I got to do the jingle?
Yeah, you got to do the jingle. I can't
dun,
do
dun,
it.
Dun, 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 dun. We're going to pull up a mock draft simulator so that you can keep tabs with the picks as they are happening. So, Joe, I'm going to go ahead and click Start Draft. And what's nice here is this draft does have a timer for 2 minutes.
Ooh, we got to get it in 2 minutes.
Right. We are not allowed to use the pause button. Okay.
Except
the only time I will use the pause button is when we have to tell everybody about our friends over at FanDuel after the first 5 picks.
All right. I can't see the timer, so you're going to have to tell me if it's getting close.
Oh, I'll let you know.
All right. This one shouldn't be too hard. Carolina Panthers up number 1.
I didn't hit Start Draft yet.
Okay, we'll hit Start Draft.
Ding. We're on.
All the momentum here is towards Bryce Young.
Minute and 55 seconds.
All of it is towards Bryce Young. Whether we would make the pick or not, I think predictively.
A minute and 50 seconds.
Predictively, you got to go with Bryce Young. Right?
Yeah, I think the momentum here is strong enough that Bryce, you feel comfortable projecting that being the direction they're actually going to go. So I will enter Bryce Young to the Panthers.
Man, I'd love to get into a sidebar conversation right now about the quotes that came out yesterday that Scott Fitterer and Frank Reich have not shared their picks, who they want to be the number 1 pick, which I think is the most ridiculous thing.
We all know who the guy who owns the team wants, right?
Right. But no, first of all, you don't trade to 1 without having a guy in mind, right? That's not a real thing. But also, don't sit here and tell me that Fitterer and Reich have not discussed this.
It worked out great with San Francisco when they traded up and didn't know who they were going to take.
Boy, all right. Houston Texans here.
On the clock at 2. We've burned the first 35 seconds talking about not the Texans.
Well, so what if the Houston Texans don't pick a quarterback? What if they trade for Trey Lance? And there's a lot of 49ers ties, right, including Bobby Slowick, who's I feel like I've said that name more than any other name on this podcast. Like, are they the team that's going to pull the trigger on Trey Lance and sit there and pick somebody else?
Well, we can ask that question after the FanDuel break before we unpause the draft. But we do need to know, like, let's assume it's not a quarterback because it sounds like Bryce Young would be the guy that they would want if they were drafting a guy, right? Which
Yes.
in which case, shame on you for letting Carolina jump you and shame on you for winning 2 games
Right.
at the end of the year. But we have 45 seconds. This is either Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson, right?
I would agree with you. I could be convinced it's Tyree Wilson. I could be convinced.
I could be convinced as well, but predictively,
You want to go a little safer and go Will Anderson?
Yeah, I'm gonna go I'm gonna advocate us to go the conservative route and go Will Anderson.
I'm in.
Okay? All right, so we're gonna make this pick with 20 seconds left. The Texans drafting Will Anderson at number 2, scorning a quarterback, which is this phenomenal doomsday scenario for the Cardinals at 3.
Right. Right. Because now you've got...
Will Anderson's off the board.
Right.
The quarterback market's been sapped immediately because you didn't get the run in the first 2 picks.
So unless the Titans want to come up from 11,
or the Raiders.
I'm not sure they have Raiders as well, and they got a lot of draft capital as well.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to try to do a trade here, or do you want to stick and pick?
We try to do a trade. Doesn't that pauses the clock, right?
Yeah, I think we got to be able to pause it for that, right? A little exception.
Let me make sure we're at 123.
Could you imagine the Cardinals just sticking and picking here?
It'd be a disaster.
That'd be so crazy to me.
All right, so the Cardinals are trading with, who do you think's more likely to come up? I think it's the Raiders. They have less far to go.
I think Stroud being on the clock changes a lot, though. I think that opens up the appetite for other teams.
Burning a timeout here. Not that you could see me do it. Actually,
I can see you. It's also, you don't have to call a time. When I stop talking and I give you the floor, you don't have to call a timeout. It's just there for you anyways.
We're talking about predictively.
Yes.
There's not a lot of predictive love for CJ Stroud right now. So I don't think him being on the board at 3 changes anything.
So who's coming up for Will Levis or Anthony Richardson?
Well, that's why I think it would be the Raiders. I think the Raiders are the team that systemically makes the most sense for CJ Stroud.
Okay. I'm not going to fight it. It's fun. It's mock draft. It's supposed to be a little chaotic.
Okay. So we're
watch the real draft once in your life. You'll see that it's crazy.
So we're going to try to have the Raiders trade up to 3 from 7. Oh, the Raiders do have plenty at their disposal
tons
here.
Of picks.
Okay,
38, 70, 100, 109.
You probably need 39 in here, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then could you do it with like a future 2?
So this is a little bit like the Darnold trade, right? Didn't
which
the Colts
was
give him 3
twos.
second-round picks?
Yeah.
So I need 39. Of course, I need 7. 7 is a 39.
And how about 70?
2.
A 2023 2. But that's only 2. That's only 2 twos. So can I give you 71, which is an early 3?
Yeah, I think that probably gets it done. Close enough.
7, 38, 70. And the simulator has 39 and 71 because it has the placeholder for the pick at 21, right? So 7, 38, 70, and a future 2.
Yep.
Send the offer. Our offer is being evaluated. Oh, and then you know what? I got to hang up because I'm trading with myself and accept the offer.
Yeah.
Done.
All right.
Done. Outstanding. All right. So the Raiders are now on the clock at number 3. CJ Stroud?
Yeah.
Okay. Now the Colts are on the clock at number 4. We have 2 minutes.
Levis or Richardson, right? That's the only conversation we have to have.
Yes, correct.
So predictably, Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard, Jim Irsay, what do they like? What does Chris Ballard always say? We like players that are unique. Well, they're both unique, so that doesn't help us. But the more unique player is Richardson,
the more unique
right?
player is Richardson, yes.
Like leaning into the
Richardson has
Woodses
the more
of the world.
Overlap with the player that Steichen just had at quarterback.
Okay. So Richardson's the pick for the Colts?
Richardson to the Colts at 4.
All right.
Our last pick before the first break. The Seattle Seahawks are on the clock at pick number 5. We currently have the top 4. Bryce Young, Will Anderson, CJ Stroud at 3 to the Raiders on a trade. Richardson to the Colts at 4.
This is Jalen Carter, right? This has got to be Jalen Carter. Unless they just don't believe in the guy. But, I mean, Seattle's always been willing to do that.
What about Tyree Wilson?
Totally possible. I watched Tyree Wilson actually this morning, and I like Tyree Wilson.
There's people that genuinely dislike Tyree Wilson.
Couldn't be me.
Could not be me either. Can you definitively sell me on Jalen Carter over Tyree Wilson? Because I kind of lean Tyree.
I think Carter's a better prospect.
Yeah.
But there's way more questions.
Correct.
There's so many questions.
Correct. Now, that hasn't stopped Seattle in the past.
Right. But, I mean, Wilson has, like, bonkers length.
He's the quintessential. He's a quintessential Seahawks pick on the front.
I agree. Let's give it to him.
Tyree Wilson?
Tyree Wilson to Seattle.
Okay, so Tyree Wilson, which brings us through the first 5 picks. We're going to give this draft a brief pause, allow the Detroit Lions and Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell to catch their breath. And we're back, Joe. Hello.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell everybody about FanDuel.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. I mean, the simulator's off the screen, and we are back so that we can deliver this very urgent message.
You've got all the buttons and levers.
Yeah, I'm floating around producing this thing. You know, I'm going to roll up my sleeves here. Go ahead.
All right, grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays, they are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. So maybe you want to bet on Pete Alonso hitting a home run tonight, or Max Scherzer to go over on the projected strikeouts. You can build a single game parlay with your favorite matchup of the day. So don't miss your chance to get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
Does Scherzer pitch for the Mets?
Yeah.
So you dropped 2 Mets analogies here on the show.
I listen. You can't sit there and make me say Aaron Judge every time. I can bring up.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, we're back. The Lions. Detroit Lions are on the clock with the 6th overall pick in this mock draft.
Okay, Jalen Carter has to be part of this conversation.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we just traded away Jeff Okudah.
And Devin Witherspoon's there?
Yes.
And he feels like a quintessential Lion. Like the first time you watched Devin Witherspoon, you thought Detroit Lions, right?
From the scrappiness that he brought from the very beginning, yes. And predictively, a lot of the insiders have had a lot of buzz for Devin Witherspoon and not Christian Gonzalez, who's our top corner, have had Devin Witherspoon as the buzzy top corner predictively.
Okay.
So
there's a strong case to be made there.
Devin Witherspoon to the Lions at 6.
Cornerback, Illinois, Fighting Illini.
Done. All right, the Cardinals on the clock. Congratulations, you picked up a whole boatload of extra draft capital. You got, 38, 70, and a future 2.
Mm-hmm.
Help this rebuild. I look at Jalen Carter. I look at Christian Gonzalez.
I don't look at Arizona as a team that can take a risk.
So Christian Gonzalez.
Well, I don't. I would lean into Christian Gonzalez more than Jalen Carter. I think a team coming up will make a lot more sense for Jalen Carter. But if you're Arizona, and we've talked about this, you need foundational pieces of your roster to legitimately build around. You can't take risks with character concerns. You need the types of guys that can come in and help change the culture. And I want to have a lot of confidence in that player if I'm Arizona. And I think Monty Ossenfort, the GM there, no-nonsense guy, is going to agree with that.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and we'll draft Christian Gonzalez to the Cardinals, which puts the Atlanta Falcons on the clock with the number 8 overall pick. Real quick, Bryce Young, Panthers, Will Anderson, Texans, C.J. Stroud, Raiders, trade up. Anthony Richardson, Colts, Tyree Wilson, Seahawks, Devin Witherspoon, Lions, Christian Gonzalez, Cardinals in the trade down. And now the Falcons at number 8, Joseph.
Bijan's in the conversation. Maybe Will Levis, maybe. I don't know that they would go with any offensive lineman. They could have their choice of receiver if they wanted to go there.
Yeah, it kind of feels like receivers getting some heat for them, doesn't it? They brought back the offensive lineman. They've added a lot to the defensive side of the ball between the trade of Okudah and signing Campbell and signing Jesse Bates. And did they get Onyemata? Am I remembering that correctly? They got somebody else at defensive tackle.
I'm pretty sure they did.
So, I mean, they checked a lot of boxes that you would think is the low-hanging fruit.
He's on the Falcons. Yes.
Yes.
Got it.
That's the worst part about this time of year is these players change. We have 45 seconds, by the way. And I don't feel like we're any close.
A weapon. Bijan or JSN?
I think it's too early for a running back from Atlanta's perspective. I say JSN.
But no quarterback.
But no quarterback.
All right, I'm in. JSN.
Jackson Smith-Njigba is the pick for the Atlanta Falcons, which now puts who I think, sorry, I'm going to quick snappy here. I think this is the Jalen Carter spot.
If it's not here, it's 10 to the Bears. Or, 10 to the Eagles.
Yes.
I'm not going to fight it. I mean, Matt Eberflus, no-nonsense guy, right? Like, does that help or hurt the case for Jalen Carter being a Bear?
This is the softest defensive line in football right now. Is that a fair statement?
So bad.
Fair statement?
Yes.
So,
no, it might be the Cardinals. The Cardinals might have a claim to that too.
Okay, but it's a bottom tier defensive front, and they've spent in a lot of places. Look, I mean, how much did they spend to play on the second level? Right?
A lot. Yeah, lots.
So if you told me that these linebackers signed to come here and we're just going to have these lumps playing in front of you, I'd be pretty ticked off.
All right, well, let's roll with it, baby.
Jalen Carter is the pick at number 9 to the Chicago Bears. Matt Eberflus, defensive-minded coach, gets his defensive stalwart to put in the heart of his defense, which makes the Philadelphia Eagles now the team on the clock with the number 10 pick. What positions are you thinking here?
I'm thinking D-line always with the Eagles.
That's probably a good call.
I think a little bit about safety with Brian Branch.
No.
Might be a little early.
It is too early. I'm sorry.
I like the offensive line talent because, I mean, we haven't had one come off the board, but they're pretty locked in, especially at tackle.
Right. And they just restructured Mike Tollett, too. So here comes the Buda Baker.
Mailata.
Ozzy Mailata.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't know his first name was Ozzy.
Listen, that was a reasonable mistake that I made there.
Don't like corner, right? I feel like this has to be defensive lineman.
Yeah, it's just about which one.
Hey, a couple names that I think predictably are going to go pretty high. Nolan Smith, Lucas Van Ness.
I'm more inclined for Van Ness. I like Smith personally a lot more as a prospect, like significantly more. But don't they kind of have that player in Reddick?
Yeah, but Hassan Reddick's got one more low cap year, and then his cap goes nuclear in the last year of that.
So do they want to get ahead of that?
Right, that's the question is, do you want a player who can be the same kind of player, or do you want Lucas Van Ness to play in line? I feel like to help the team immediately, Van Ness is probably the proper move. We have 20 seconds.
I could flip a coin here, Kyle. I think.
Do you have a coin? Do you have a coin?
Imagine thinking I had coins.
15 seconds. 10 seconds.
I don't have a coin.
Just tell me. Just 5 seconds.
Van Ness.
Done. Oh, he's not. Oh, that was real tight to the buzzer, but we got it. So we're back right now, right? We're through the first 10 picks. I brought us back on.
I found a coin.
Seriously?
A dime right here. Yeah.
It was there the entire time.
It was in, I mean, this little thing. I don't know. I got a coin for the future.
Respectfully. That does us no good now.
I know.
So,
all right. It feels like a good time for a break, Kyle. That was a big.
We're back. We're back on the screen.
Okay.
We're going to finish with picks 11 through 15 today. We'll do 15 today, 16 tomorrow. Feel good about our pacing, Joe. We're through 10 picks, and we're at 20 minutes in a mock draft.
Whoa.
For you and me, that's unheard of.
Yeah. Somehow we got together to team up on the picks, and that made it quicker. No, it's got to be the timer. It's got to be the timer.
It's 1,000,000% the timer because we would have steamrolled through it several times.
Yeah.
So we have 5 more picks here to make on this episode of Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes. Shortly, we're going to be resuming after this brief pause for a message from sponsors. Okay, Joe, we're back. Are you ready to throw it back to the sim?
Yeah, we got the Titans on the clock here at number
Does
11.
it? Well, I didn't hit start. I didn't hit resume draft yet. But
Yeah.
I guess my question for you is, does it count as a simulator for doing all the picks?
No, it's just a nice way for us to have a visual guide for those of us who joined us on the YouTube channel.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, the Titans are on the clock with the 11th pick.
Don't they have to pick Will Levis?
For him to be here at this point,
Yes.
compares favorably to Ryan Tannehill in general.
Yes.
Yes, I say so. Will Levis at 11?
Yes.
Okay, the Texans better be trading for Trey Lance now because now they're on the clock. And the quarterbacks are gone. And I'm sorry, I am not putting Hendon Hooker's rear end in the first round of a mock draft. I'm not.
Let's live in a world. Let's have that caveat be they're going to trade for Trey Lance. That's their direction.
Sure. I'm fine with that. But that won't involve pick 12, so that doesn't impact this decision here.
Everything's on the table in my mind. We still haven't had an offensive lineman come off the board, and I don't even think this would be the right spot for it.
Correct. I agree.
But they're going to come off the board in a second.
Offensive line run is going to come hot and heavy here in just a minute.
Right.
Might be the next 3 picks.
I would think so. I think so. I think you're right about that.
So the Texans, what are we thinking? The defensive cornerstone?
Yes. But like who?
Okay, so at corner, you have 1 corner off the board, correct?
Right.
2 corners off the board, excuse me. Christian Gonzalez and Devin Witherspoon are gone. So you have Joey Porter Jr., Deontay Banks, just predictive names that pop. Edge rushers, Nolan Smith, Miles Murphy.
They just picked Will Anderson in this experiment.
Defensive tackles. Is it too early for Mozzie Smith?
It's tough, man.
Linebacker. Jack Campbell.
They have a huge need there, but doesn't that seem early for Campbell?
It does, but man, he checked just about every damn box.
Right. Can have their quarterback of their defense. We got to.
Dude, they picked a guard in the top 15. I've paused the draft. We have 13 seconds. We are nowhere on this pick.
Right, because everything seems to be reasonable. I don't think they're going to pick a running back here or a tight end.
Right.
Maybe they will pick a tight end. I don't know.
Is wide receiver?
I would think about it. Let's get predictive here. This is Nick Caserio, those tendencies, D'Amico Ryans, 49ers, that type of defense. Is Miles Murphy in this conversation? They just picked an edge rusher.
They did. Dude, it's the names that are at the top of my mind are Mozzie Smith, Kalijah Cansey, Jack Campbell.
Okay, of those names, the one that has the most predictive buzz is Cansey.
Yes.
Do we just dump him in here and move on with our lives?
Yes, we're going to do that. That's exactly what we're going to do. So Kalijah Cansey's a pick at 12.
All right.
Defensive front disruptor
for
D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah.
Jets. Oh, this is offensive tackle, yeah?
Yeah, which one you think they like the most?
Either Paris or Skoronski. Positional flexibility.
They get the positional flexibility, really from either. I
Right.
think the true left tackle is Paris Johnson.
Correct. You feel like that's a need?
Yeah,
enough
I
of a
think
need
so.
to yeah.
Yes.
And respectfully, Paris is the better player, as far as I'm concerned.
I would agree.
Paris Johnson's a pick at 13. So we have 2 picks left here before we're wrapping for the day.
The offensive linemen probably continue here with the Patriots.
Broderick Jones.
I think Broderick Jones would be a great pick for them. I can see them loving Darnell Wright as well. Out of Tennessee.
Yeah, I could see that as well.
I mean, Skoronski's seems like is going to go high, right? Are they going to care about length?
I mean, their tackles have been pretty prototypical.
Right.
You know what? I could get behind Darnell Wright here.
It feels like a Patriots player.
And Darnell Wright has more buzz
Than Broderick Jones. It's just
Yes.
crazy to me, but That's fine.
Darnell Wright?
Darnell Wright to the Patriots.
Done. Last pick of the day. Fun fact, I don't know if you knew this, the Packers have done, like, for their 30 visits, they've put, like, I think they've had, like, 8 tight ends in or something like that. I don't know if that matters to you.
It's obviously their biggest hole. I mean, Josiah DeGuara is their starting tight end right now.
Correct. It's not going to happen.
Tanyan and Lewis are not back. I mean, they have their choice of these guys. Kincaid in the receiving prowess there would be a major asset to Jordan Love as a first-year starter.
I've heard they like Mayer a lot.
Mayer also makes a lot of sense. Gives them more in line. I can see them valuing that.
Right, especially with how they're going to presumably run the ball more. I think Mayer's more impactful in line than Kincaid.
All right. Well, let's go with
Michael
Michael
Mayer
Mayer to the Packers.
Done.
Wow.
That is
Go
the
us.
first 15 picks are in the books. I'm going to leave them up here on the screen for everybody to read. Bryce Young, Carolina Panthers. Will Anderson, Houston Texans. C.J. Stroud, trade up with the Las Vegas Raiders. Anthony Richardson to the Colts. Tyree Wilson to the Seahawks. Devin Witherspoon to the Lions. Christian Gonzalez to the Cardinals. Jackson Smith-Njigba to the Atlanta Falcons. Jalen Carter to the Chicago Bears. Lucas Van Ness to the Philadelphia Eagles. Will Levis to the Tennessee Titans. Kalijah Cansey to the Houston Texans. Paris Johnson Jr. to the New York Jets. Darnell Wright to the New England Patriots. And Michael Mayer to the Green Bay Packers. It's the first half of our consensus predictive 2023 April mock draft.
Got some good players left, man. Bijan Robinson, Peter Skoronski's still around, Broderick Jones. I mean, there's some offensive line talent. I like Nolan Smith a ton. He's out there.
Yeah.
Brian Branch. Should be fun to sort through this the rest of this thing tomorrow.
Absolutely. So you're going to want to make sure you hit subscribe, follow along as we do the second half of this mock and take you all the way to the 2023 NFL Draft. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Shout out to the everydayers for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make it a great rest of your day. We hope to see you again tomorrow. And until then, peace.